Well, welcome. We're really excited about this quarter's CIVIQ. It's really exciting for us. We love hosting this because we think it's the perfect place to talk about urban design in a very urban area. A library is all about learning. This is all about learning too, so it's just a really great fit. I'm especially excited about this quarter's event, this topic, talking about adults and playing. We often, I think, as adults, forget to play. I would say that our library is one of the few places that really is kind of a library is a adult play place. So come on by. We'd love to see you come play with us, have a good time with us. You can always have a good time on the fourth floor. There's all sorts of different things going on there. All our programs really designed. We try to be lighthearted and have lots of different fun with you guys. So again, perfect place to have this event, and we're really excited about it. And with no further ado, because you didn't come to listen to me, I'll go ahead and introduce the amazing leader of one of our favorite partners, the Chattanooga Design Studio, Eric Myers. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Will. Let's hear it for Will O'Hearn in the library. He's doing a fantastic job. Amazing partners of ours. Thank you so much, Will. Thank you to your staff for having us here at the library. It's a fantastic venue in the center of town. I want to give some thanks tonight. I have a tiny little story, and I want to introduce. I have the pleasure of introducing Meghan to speak tonight. First of all, thank you to the library, and thank you for hosting here again. Thank you to Ray Bassett. Where's Ray? I lost Ray. Ray Bassett, and thank you for hosting us on Scenic Routes for a conversation with you last week. That was fantastic. Always appreciate your partnership with us to announce CIVIQ and advance our speakers. Thank you to the Lyndhurst Foundation. This would not be possible at all. CIVIQ would not be possible to bring to you without the generous support of the Lyndhurst Foundation. Bruz and Macon, thank you for what you do for us. We really appreciate it, and being able to present this program. It's a fantastic program. I think some of you who have been to CIVIQ often might be sitting here tonight saying, Eric, how does play integrate with urban design? What does play have to do with urban design? And I want to tell you a little bit about it, and I want to tell you about it in a real personal way. My son is about to graduate from high school. It's the spring of the year. He has senioritis, and it's really affecting mom and dad right now. And in one way, I want to share with you a story that will help you maybe think about how play is integrated with urban design. So 16 years ago, my son's 2 years old. And because my wife and I were very cheap, we would always take him to the dam, and this is Chickamauga Dam, and the little beach area. And he's toddling around, he's not swimming, but he's walking around, and he's understanding what water is and how to be comfortable with water just on his own terms. And mom and dad would sit back in the lawn chairs and just kind of watch him do his thing. Well, one day he face planted in the water, and he took in a big gulp of water and was really traumatized, and was very afraid of water. And so the later part of that summer, what we did was we walked from our home in North Chattanooga to Coolidge Park and just tried to introduce him to a fountain there in Coolidge Park. And for those of you that don't know me, I was kind of a kid in a room with another Joseph here when Coolidge Park was being planned. I had to pinch myself when Joseph was a designer, Joseph Lawyer, raise your hand for everybody, designing Coolidge Park. I was in that room, and so seeing kind of this shape and kind of understanding what a fountain could be in a park didn't really occur to me until I had a son who was bubbling around that fountain. I want to tell you two things. If you've ever been to that fountain in Coolidge Park, it's an amazing place. And it's an amazing place because it has two components to it. First of all, it has an intensity of water that gradually kind of builds to this geyser, if you will, in the center. And so little kids can kind of play in that from less intense to most intense. And so my 2-year-old was kind of playing with water up to his little knees and kind of getting reintroduced with water on that particular day that we were there. My wife and I were sitting on about 10 feet away from him and watching him do his thing. And two little kids came up to him. He was watching these teenagers in the geyser. They were screaming and making all kinds of racket, and his eyes were almost terrifying. He thought that they were in trouble, clearly. He thought that they were drowning or something because of the experiences he had. He was afraid to kind of venture into the more adventurous part of the fountain. Two kids, out of nowhere, came up and grabbed his hand. They saw him and walked him further into the intensity. And you could see he was still had some animosity, but he did that with them. And so he went into a little bit further. All of a sudden, you saw the fountain kind of die down a little bit, and the teenagers as teenagers do, kind of realized where they were and saw that a group of about 4 kids now were walking towards them. And they graciously kind of stepped aside a little bit, and the geyser started to go again, and my son put out his hand in the little geyser, and his eyes opened up, and he thought, I saw the magic. I saw him kind of make a connection with water again after this traumatizing effect. And so the reason I bring that up to you is because, for one thing, democratizing of space for kids and for everyone, my wife and I just enjoyed the hell out of that little event, you know, and we didn't have to really play. We did play a little bit that day. I got wet. But the democratizing of space for kids and how that happens in public spaces and parks is so important. And it's never more important than it is right now. Understanding how we relate to one another and how to get along with one another, how to help one another, it happens that early. And that's why this conversation is so important. It's why it's important to me. And it's why I think I've become really fast friends with Meghan through the Montague Park project, and why I feel honored to do what I'm doing and work with people like Meghan. You know, I've said on the radio that Scott Martin, who's a good friend of mine that worked for the Parks and Outdoors Department, said that, be careful, Meghan, and look out, Meghan is going to be the next MacArthur genius. He's absolutely right. Her work really speaks for itself. Hopefully you did a little bit of background research, and you'll hear a little bit more about her work tonight. But it is my great honor right now to present to you Meghan Talarowski with Studio Ludo.
I think I'm good. I'll go back a couple. You're giving the sneak preview. No, back. The other way, there you go. Well, that was like really setting the groundwork. I have to like really deliver, right? Hi, thank you for coming. Thank you for spending your time with me. We are gonna talk about Never Too Old to Play, Rethinking American Playgrounds. So this picture is where I am now, but we're gonna actually go through like a whole process of where I've been to get to this picture. This is the Arches Playground in Omaha. It is one of our favorite, biggest, most exciting parks, but we had to do a lot of thinking and convincing and fundraising and design thinking to get to a space that is that vibrant. And I don't know if you guys can really see, but do you see more kids or more grown-ups in that space, in that picture? More grown-ups. So we're gonna talk about why are grown-ups attracted to that space? Why do they feel invited to play? This is me. I grew up in Northern California, a really small town right at the base of the mountains. I spent my childhood rock climbing, mountain climbing. I actually got engaged on top of a 14,000-foot mountain. Then I moved from that small town in Northern California to Chicago, and I got my architecture degree there. I actually picked it because they sent me a catalog and they allowed me to go for free, and also because they had a program in France. So I went to school in Chicago, I started exploring Europe, and I just kind of kept going. So I have lived all over the world. I've lived in London and in France. I've visited 49 out of the 50 states. And in every one of those places that I've gone, the main thing that is in common with all of my travels is I really love to play, right? I always find places where I can move and I can connect. And the thing that I love about playing is that it is beyond language. You can play with someone even if you don't speak the same language as them. I took my kids to Iceland, and every time we would stop at a little park, they would find other kids to play with, and they would just be having a great time. Absolutely, my children do not speak Icelandic. They are not that advanced. But play is our common language as people. It did not surprise anyone that I grew up with that playgrounds is what I do for a living. But let's just take a step back and say, why do we even do that as a society? Why do we build playgrounds? Playgrounds right now, you're like, oh, there's playgrounds everywhere. They're like a ubiquitous part of city fabric, but why do we make them? Why do we build that space? So, early 1900s, this is where we decided kids could play, right? Not the safest space. At the rise of the Industrial Revolution, when people were moving from rural areas into cities, whole families were moving into factories, and this is the kind of spaces that we gave kids to play in. And then we decided to pass some laws, and we said, childhood is actually a protected time, a protected status, and so instead of playing here, they should play here. I mean, that's way safer. safer. This is totally an only the strong will survive kind of scenario. But this was our first idea about what play should look like. At the same time, Teddy Roosevelt, who you know, everybody knows who Teddy Roosevelt is, President of the United States. First, he was president of the Playground Association of America. He said, if we would have our citizens contented and law-abiding, we must not sow the seeds of discontent in childhood by denying children their birthright of play. So this is a really powerful thing to make a statement that not only is childhood a protected time, but children deserve, and it is their right to play, and we should provide spaces for that to occur. At the same time that we started having all of these child protection laws, it was called the child saving movement in the early 1900s, we also started to see waves of immigration coming in from countries all over the world. So you have all of these different cultures that are moving into the United States, and playgrounds were actually seen as a way of taking all of these different cultures and making sort of one unified American. Playgrounds were not just a well-designed, carved-out territory, they were also staffed. The play workers were trained in child development and also in like line dancing and songs and all these things that we decided were good things to be an American. The next president of the Playground Association of America said, self-government is to be learned as an experience rather than taught as a theory. Hence, in a permanent democracy, adequate playgrounds for all children are a necessity. So what Eric was just saying, tying in this idea that play is how we're going to build good Americans, good citizens, and it is the foundation of a strong country. But of course, then we immediately started arguing, as we do in design, about what a playground should look like and what it's for. Should it be about sensory play? Should it be about sand and water? Should it be about building strong bodies? We knew that we started to see the rise of the automobile. On the left-hand side, if you can't read this, this is the Brooklyn Municipal Murder Map from 1927. They started to see that this territory that kids were owning, the streets and playgrounds, when cars also started to own that territory, we saw a lot of collisions. So they decided that all of the places where those collisions were happening between kids and cars, well, that's where we should be investing and building these great places to play. Aldo van Eyck also had this idea that playgrounds shouldn't be a space apart, but should be a way that we could see kids as part of our community. If we create a playground well, we create a world in which man rediscovers what is essential and the city rediscovers the child. So rather than having this sort of fenced off space apart from the rest of the society, playgrounds should just look like a continuation of the city fabric. The materials should just be the blocks of the street. All of the structures should be made from metal, similar to the architecture of the city, and play should just be woven in and around the city. So then a lot of people were kind of buying into this. They're like, this is pretty great, actually. Like, maybe we should start playing a little bit higher. Look at these amazing dresses that they're playing in. That was not slowing them down. Maybe we should play a little bit faster. These are made out of wood. I do not know how anyone was not getting slivers in their butts. Robert Moses got involved. Everyone knows Robert Moses. Totally transformed the city of New York. The way that he thought about planning, you can have a lot of feelings about Moses, but the way that he thought about planning influenced the way that we design cities around the world. He said that parks are the outward visible symbol of democracy. He really latched onto this idea of the playground, and he saw that there was an issue with all of this street play that was happening sort of naturally. Street play in the city of New York was supervised by police. So we said, okay, we have this idea, the police are already sort of watching out for them. How about we train them in child development and make them the early play workers of the playgrounds in New York? So the first play workers in the city of New York actually were part of the police force. So all across the city of New York, you started to see this sort of pattern. He started stamping play all around the city. It looked the same. It often had a paddling pool, maybe a little sand pit. There were swings. He was very big on caregiver support, so there was always plenty of benches. And when you thought of playground, now when you start to draw that picture in your head, you're starting to see the same thing across the city. Then Isamu Noguchi got involved. He is a sculptor, and he was pushing back. He's like, I don't know, like if we make the same space over and over again, sort of like a stamp, a cookie cutter, are we creating cookie cutter people? And is that the kind of design of play that we want? Maybe the playground should be a space where children have endless exploration, endless opportunities to change play. His idea was to sculpt the ground and create this sort of continuous play space, play mountain. Obviously, Moses and Noguchi hated each other's guts. This never happened in the city of New York, but Noguchi's explorations did really influence a lot of future play designers across the country. In 1950, after World War II, in Europe particularly, after a lot of the bombings that happened from the war, there was vacant lots filled with a lot of rubble and loose parts. And Lady Allen of Hurtwood saw kids playing with those loose parts. She also saw that they were bringing tools into those spaces, and she decided to make them a specific type of play called the adventure playground, which is actually starting to see a renaissance in the United States. One of my favorite quotes is, "Better a broken arm than a broken spirit." It's important to ask ourselves, what is the point of the playground? Is it to be as safe as possible? Is it to be as safe as necessary? Is it a space where you learn what it feels like to break an arm or not? And so all of these people are having this push-pull, this conversation, these pretty big fights about what is the purpose of a playground, what is the design of a playground, what is it for? The Eameses got involved. They started developing all of these different loose parts so that kids could start creating their own space. Artists started getting involved. The artist movement sparked the playground manufacturing movement. Now you started to see manufacturing of different parts coming into playgrounds. Richard Datner was really influenced by Noguchi, but he was able to kind of pull back a little bit and convince Moses to do some of his playgrounds. Datner is the designer of most of the playgrounds in Central Park. I like this quote because he says, kids have to have an effect on their environment. I think that's why kids destroy things. If they cannot create, they must destroy. If they have this innate sense to create, to manipulate, to have agency in their environment, how do we provide that in a way that we feel comfortable? So a lot of his parks had structured elements made from concrete, made from steel, that were really durable, but they also had plenty of sand and plenty of water, lots of loose parts, so kids felt a sense of manipulation with their environment. He also got in on the manufacturing movement. Now they're starting to see more materials in playground manufacturing. These are actually still on the market today. They're play cubes. And then just a lot of different manufacturers got involved and play just completely exploded. I love these UFOs. In some of the old playgrounds in Philadelphia, we still have some of these UFOs. So you started to see different types of climbing frames. Joe Brown invented the space net, so now you're starting to see different types of static movement, static and non-static movement. Concrete sees this massive renaissance. I don't know about you, but we have random little turtles in some of our playgrounds, sort of left behind. People have real relationships with the turtles and are like, don't get rid of them, they're really important to my childhood. These are my kids on the right-hand side. What's great about some of these materials is they have a real staying power and a longevity. Then we see robots that are automatically producing fun. I mean, we're just designers are really excited about all these different ways that we can execute play. The inventor of landscape structures, I'm sure he played Floor is Lava a lot as a kid. He's like, what if play components were attached and kids could move from play event to play event and they don't even have to touch the ground? So now you're starting to see playgrounds that look a little bit more familiar, right? Now you're starting to see this movement of all this different experimentation. What is play? How do we design for it? These are the playgrounds of my childhood. I grew up on Leathers playgrounds. I probably still have splinters in my body to this day. And then this is probably what you're most familiar with. It's important for us to look back on where we've been and to talk about where we're going and what our options and choices are. Just because this is what we're used to, because our memories and our lifespans are fairly short, just know that that's not always where we've been, and we don't necessarily have to stay in that box. I love this quote. The more risks you allow children to take, the better they learn how to take care of themselves. Again, what is the role of the playground? Can we allow children to take risks with their physical bodies? The City Museum in St. Louis. I am a certified playground safety inspector. It's part of my job. I wear a couple of different hats. There are signs all over this playground that say that it is certified for safety. I don't know if I believe it. I had an amazing time here. This is such a space that challenges your expectations of what you can do. I am a very big risk taker. I refuse to go in that tube that is dangling off the side of a building. I was like, you can put any sticker you want on that. That doesn't feel safe to me. And then now we've kind of gotten to this moment now where we're seeing this huge rise in destination play, where cities are starting to see that there's a real need for these types of spaces that are really welcoming, that build community. And so you're starting to see places like The Gathering Place, places like Montague Park, places like Maggie Daley. Cities are using these as ways of showing an outward investment in care that they want families to feel comfortable in their cities. So we have gone on this crazy journey where we're always fighting and pushing and challenging what we build. We need to talk about why we build in the first place. Remember that this was about child saving. We wanted to protect childhood. I think it's important to look at this moment in history in the 1950s when we had FHA loans in the United States. FHA loans were not an investment that was equal in the United States, and it created a division, and it moved this investment in play, which was originally in urban centers, outside into suburban areas. And so there was a lot of families that were left out of that investment in play. So when we're thinking about how we're investing, where we're investing, that's as important as what we're investing in. I believe that this is a spatial justice issue because while I was showing you all those beautiful pictures of play, where it's been, where it's going, many playgrounds in Philadelphia, where I live, look like this. This is the experience for many children in the United States, and it is really essential that we understand what this space says to those kids and how it makes them feel, and that they don't get to have the same type of experience as other kids. In 1989, the UN convened on the rights of the child, and they said that every child has the right to rest and leisure, to engage in play and recreation appropriate to the age of the child, and to participate freely in cultural life and the arts. Basically what this means is children have a right to play. Every nation in the world has ratified this except for the United States of America. We have not said that children in our country deserve the right to play. So that leads me to where I am in my career. I very strongly believe that everybody deserves a great place to play, and that is a foundational belief and the mission of our organization at Studio Ludo. So I actually got my start working for the Trust for Public Land in San Francisco. Their mission is conserving land for people, and they realized that conserving land thousands of miles away from where people live doesn't work if you don't create passion and love for the outdoors where people are at. So they started their Parks for People program where they were building parks and playgrounds in urban centers. On my first day working for TPL as a playground designer, they handed me a big stack of catalogs and a box of colored rubber, and they said, go. And I raised my hand and I was like, is there more? Is there training or like more information? Like, these seem like pretty pivotal spaces. This is way before I knew all that stuff I just shared with you. Is there like some sort of course I can take? But no, so I did my best. I researched, I learned, I tried. I created these really fun spaces that have since won awards. But at the end of this 3-park initiative that I was hired to do, we partnered with some researchers. Our funders were really curious about how the spaces were performing before and after the installation, and if they were actually impacting use or physical activity. It was the watching and the learning of how people were playing that was so impactful. I could pick whatever I wanted, whatever cool structure, whatever fancy color and design, but behavior isn't always what I expected or designed for. So at Studio Ludo, what we do is we study how people play in a really wide variety of settings. We share those findings freely and publicly in order to elevate and support play designers to design better. That it's not always just about picking something from a catalog, it's knowing really deeply how people play. So this is our goal in all of our research. We're really trying to understand what is it that makes a great place to play. I was very lucky that I had the opportunity. My husband's company said, do you want to move to London for 6 months and we'll ship your baby and your cats? And we were like, yeah. So for 6 months we got to move here. This is my very first research assistant, my 1-year-old daughter. When we moved here, I knew that play was different. Play was more exciting. Giant tree houses, yeah? Huge concrete mountains, 3-story concrete mountains with slides going down the front of them. What is happening here? I need to learn more. So I embarked on the London study of playgrounds. I reached out to those former research colleagues and I said, if I collect the data, will you help me assess it? They did. We collected data on 18,000 people in 16 different playgrounds. It took me a year to count the videos of all of those people while also taking care of my child and working part-time and trying to start a nonprofit. We published the findings and 3 months later, the report was on the cover of the New York Times. People were really curious about what is it that makes a great place to play? How does the design of space influence play behavior? We had some big findings, well, I thought were big at the time. We found that the London playgrounds were more popular, more active, they had less injuries and they cost less, and the thing that people really liked were climbing, swinging, sand, grass, and boulders. And we also started to see that playgrounds are used by more than just kids, which was kind of surprising. So now that we have all of this data, some landscape architects are starting to reach out to us. They're like, we have these great new projects. Can you use your data and can you design some great places to play? So we got to work on Hoboken, Northwest, the Resiliency Park. We partnered with Olin. So it's a 1 acre play space. This is actually on top of a 1 million gallon stormwater tank. It was right after Superstorm Sandy. So we created plenty of opportunities for climbing for kids at heart. I love to climb, and I was like, there's grown-ups here, I think they would like to climb too. We provided plenty of swings for people of all ages, lots of boulders for climbing, and seating for caregivers. Something that I felt as a caregiver when I was in London was, we need to do better. When I go to a park or a playground, I'm literally just standing there on my phone. There's not even a place for me to sit. So can we just provide a nice bench with nice lines of sight, maybe in the shade? Maybe there's like a coffee shop nearby because being a parent is really tiring. Can we just like take care of people in our public spaces and still provide great places to play? And can we just have a little fun with sand and water? Okay, so we finished that study, right? The London study of playgrounds. Then New York City Parks reaches out to us and they were like, okay, that study was really interesting, but what about play in the United States? Can you do a study in our town? So we partnered with them. We looked at a few of their parks, 23 different playgrounds. We collected data on 6,000 people. So now we're starting to get a lot more information. We're starting to learn a little bit more. This is when I start to learn that being a researcher is hard. I'm not a trained data scientist. I'm just sort of an ad hoc data scientist. And I'm realizing that you need a lot of information to make really definitive findings. So I'm like, there's definitely a trend. Playgrounds are used by more than just kids. We're starting to see that grown-ups that aren't even with kids are hanging out near and in playgrounds. That's kind of interesting. And maybe people like trees. I can't tell you for sure because I don't have enough information, but I think that people like trees. So then we had the opportunity to work on FDR Park, which is about 10 minutes from my house in Philadelphia. This is a gorgeous Olmsted Park, beautiful tree canopy, a very robust tree climbing culture. And so we decided to kind of riff off of that. We built these 30-foot tall tree houses and we put a tree inside of them. We made sure that there was space for all ages. We thought really deeply about what it meant to be a caregiver in this space, lines of sight, where are you parking your stroller, where are places for feeding, where's a local bathroom. And we also were really strategic about how to scale up and invite in. We also thought a lot about color and what is keeping grown-ups. If a lot of grown-ups are in the space, first we take care of them, provide all those places to sit, places to park the stroller, but then what would encourage them to then leave that bench and go in and play in the structure? So always striking this balance between what are the invitations to stay, where can someone set up a picnic blanket, have a birthday party, and what are the invitations to play? I did not mention that this is the largest swing in North America. It's named the Mega Swing. They didn't name it after me, but I feel like they should have. This is a 120-foot long giant oval, and 30 different people can swing at the same time. Okay, so we've done those 2 studies. We cannot say, the tree thing was bothering me. I'm like, I really need to know this tree stat. So we had been pursuing the National Institutes of Health, asking them, can we do a study all across the United States? Can we actually try to understand what it is that makes a great place to play across America? We got to partner with Kaiser Permanente and the RAND Corporation. We got funding from NIH, and we did the national study of playgrounds that we completed about 2 years ago. So we worked in 10 major cities across the country. Part of the negotiation with NIH was to make sure that if we're doing a national study, it's really representative of the US, that we're not focused in any one specific geographic area. We want to make sure that if this is national, that it really is reflective of behavior across the US. We were really curious about how design is influencing behavior, Playgrounds are like a really cool laboratory. So we were looking at innovative playgrounds that have all these different diversity of experiences and types. We refer to them as innovative. I'll define that in a minute. And we were comparing them to comparison playgrounds. Like, if you sat down and I asked you to draw a picture of what a playground is, you're gonna draw the posts, the platforms, the slide, maybe a little ladder. But what we really wanted to understand is, like, there's so much experimentation and excitement happening in play, and are any of those good? Like, what is it that makes a great place? So we defined innovative by spaces that had a variety of surfacing. There were planted areas specifically designed for play. They contained open-ended structures, loose and movable equipment, and they weren't solely post and platform systems. We collected data on 34,000 people. This wasn't just me. We had a lot of people. I can't do that by myself. So we had 20 data collectors all across the country looking in 60 different playgrounds. So I know that you guys are back of the napkin, like, putting down all these numbers. We now have data on 60,000 people in 100 playgrounds in the US and UK, which is the largest data set on play behavior in the world. So now we can finally start to say some really significant things because we have all the data. So what we learned: people like better designed spaces. It makes them feel better. We saw twice as many people in playgrounds that we defined as innovative. People like to be supported where they live. We found 5 times more people in playgrounds that were within a 10-minute walk of people's homes. It is as important to design great destination play as it is to design play that's easily walkable from people's homes. I finally have that tree stat. More than any piece of play equipment you can put in a playground, trees have the biggest impact on behavior. We saw twice as many people in playgrounds with mature trees than we did in playgrounds with no trees. Trees are super important. And half of playground users are not children. So we have this idea that we're creating this space just for kids, but we really need to think about all of the people that are in that space. Everybody loves to swing. That's why we built that mega swing. Swings are the favorite play equipment for all ages. Followed by climbing. That made me feel good as a climber, especially if they're open-ended, so they allow for a variety of body sizes to interact and climb together. Followed by towers. People like to be really high. Followed by going really, really fast. Being high, going fast, all these things are really fun. And people like water play. But most importantly, if we want to get grown-ups moving and active, we want them playing with their kids. So that led us to create this checklist of a great place to play. So more important than any of the stuff that goes in the play environment, before you even get to that stack of catalogs and the colors of rubber, you're going to make sure that you're supporting people where they're at. Half a mile of their homes, that you're encouraging landscape and trees or even immature trees, that there's a sense of enclosure with fencing and planting, and that there's supports like bathrooms, benches, and tables. Then providing opportunities for physical play and sensory play. So that's our research. We've done this huge body of research trying to really understand what makes a great place. And our research sort of sits within a much larger body. A lot of people have been thinking about this, arguing about this for years and years. Mildred Parton in 1929, she really focused very closely on what play does for the very young. Play is an evolutionary need. It's something that children just naturally gravitate towards, and why? What does it do for us? So the main thing that play does in the very young is it helps to build really strong brains. 80% of our brain capacity is built before the age of 3, 90% before the age of 5. It is important that those little brains get as many different varieties of experiences and social engagements as possible in order to build those super strong brains. Early to middle childhood, play is exploding. Bob Hughes wrote a book called Evolutionary Play Work. He studied kids at play. He helped them play for 20 years. He identified 18 different types of play. So now in middle childhood, it's all about building strong bodies. We built these strong brains, now let's build these strong bodies to carry these brains around in. And it's also about understanding the social context in which you sit. Every child is born in a different social construct all around the world. Different languages, different foods, different jobs, different ways of speaking, different ways of, different jobs that you can have for different genders. So every single piece of play that's happening is all about figuring out how you fit within the social construct in which you have been born into. Late childhood, there's been a huge explosion of research looking at risky play, which is what is risky play and what is it for? And is it appropriate? Like, that better a broken arm than a broken spirit. Like, is taking risks appropriate, and why? And why do we do it? Should we allow kids to take small risks while they're young, when the stakes are lower than when they get behind a wheel of a car and they don't really understand? So it's trying to flex their risk-taking abilities in settings that are a little bit more constrained, so they're safer. This chart is a little bit complicated. So on the top you see mental, physical, social, emotional. The dark blue is basically what is play doing for us as a person. So in young childhood, it's all about building strong brains. In middle childhood, it's about building strong bodies. That's where we stop. At 12 years old, we've decided that we're no longer going to build spaces for play. And that's really unfortunate, because play continues to support us throughout our life. It's just that it's transitioning slightly. Humans are social animals, and play helps us to navigate complicated social relationships. It helps us to figure out how to make friends, how to find partners, how to make more little humans, and continuing to have long-term relationships throughout life so that we don't get lonely and we continue to have strong social ties to stay happy and healthy throughout life. So one of our big takeaways is that we're so focused on building a great place to play, but what we really need to focus on is building a great place to stay. Building spaces where people feel connected to others, where they want to spend time together, where they want to have birthday parties, where they want to go swing with their friends on a giant swing. The thing that was so great about, I go back and visit the Mega Swing at FDR all the time, and I see so many teenagers, so many young adults. We had a snow day a couple weeks ago, and this woman, a 33-year-old woman, the park was totally empty. The slide, everything is covered in snow, and she's filming herself, terrified, climbing to the top of the tower. She slides down, and she hits this moment of like pure joy where she's like laughing, and then she's like, that like moment of like, oh, I'm gonna die. And then she gets to the bottom, and she was like, that was awesome. And she does it over and over and over again. She posted it on TikTok, and I checked today, it has 16 million views. She was having the time of her life. I think we have to give more permission to let go and play. All right, how am I doing on time, Eric? I can keep going? Great. Ooh, whoa, sorry. Okay, so I just wanted to jump into a couple of our projects, to sort of talk about that checklist and how we've executed them. So we're gonna go to that playground that we started with, the Arches Playground. This is a $14 million playground. It's a very large destination park, this huge renovation of public space right in the heart of Omaha. We don't normally get budgets like that. So we're gonna talk about a high dollar budget, and then we're gonna talk about a lower budget project. So when we're looking at the checklist, we're looking at providing plenty of trees and enclosure, really thinking strategically about where the caregivers are gonna sit. That was actually the first thing that we designed, was where is that half of people going to go in this park? So if you look on the left-hand side, the whole of the park has all of these boulders and steps and places to park strollers, really good lines of sight. We actually kind of carved the territory into 3 different zones. So you have this whole lower space, then this sort of folded, faceted deck, and then these giant arches that kind of leap over the structure. And it was a very narrow, very small footprint, and we wanted to try to provide as much play value as possible in this very small space. We also made sure, so first we designed where the caregiver is gonna sit, where the birthday party is gonna happen, where are the bathrooms, before we let ourselves get excited about play. So providing plenty of variety of experience with climbing. I love this hill that goes down into the climbing wall. I see grown-ups rolling down it all the time. I've rolled down it plenty of times. Thinking about opportunities for swinging and swaying. Thinking about opportunities to move your body really fast, to experience water, and to experience loose parts with sand and plants. And I think another thing that we don't talk about a lot when we talk about sensory experiences, we're also talking about sensory in the sense of heat and smell and plants. And so one of the things that's so great about doing this layered system is that there's all these opportunities to retreat and to kind of go underground. It's very cave-like, but actually very cool. So in the summer, it's really fun to see this whole underside be activated. They also had an opportunity to partner with us, and we looked at play all across the site. And we looked at something called play affordance, which is, again, we're always talking about what is the invitation in the landscape? What is saying to someone, you can play here? So we looked at what is playful seating? What is sound? What is water and light? What are opportunities for active play? What are things that are cueing someone to say, it's okay, you can come, you can play? Okay, so then on the flip side, super small space. This is just south of Philadelphia. It's a small surface parking lot. We're gonna use that same checklist and see if we can provide the same value of play experience without that high dollar amount. This is an Audubon town. They were really excited about providing habitat for kids and habitat for birds. So we picked this cute little birdhouse structure. So this was specifically for 0 to 5s. So when we're looking at that checklist to providing opportunities for being up high, it's also sort of related to the scale of the body. So for these little kids, just getting a little bit off the ground provided that same sense of experience. We look a lot about using salvaged materials, so we use local logs and boulders to provide play experiences. We always try to tuck in swings, even in our super small footprint, by doing basket swings so people can swing together. And then we do a lot with stormwater management because we think it's really important for kids to understand how the environment works. So we do a lot with rain gardens. So kids come with their buckets and their welly boots, and they get excited about rain days because the rain gardens fill up, and it's a totally different type of play experience. And then we always think about caregivers. Is there places that they can sit and have a snack? Are there places for shade? Can we be thoughtful about that shade so it actually casts some fun shadows and is its own play experience? And then now we're back to you guys. So when we were brought here to work on Montague Park, it's a pretty unique space. You know where it is. It's a pretty playful space already. And I got a little freaked out when we first started. I was like, how do you do play in a place that is already pretty playful, that already has a lot of pretty rich play behavior? We heard a lot of interesting stories about people that would take their kids here, and you can run, and you have these like amazing vistas, and I think there's some illegal climbing happening on all the structures. So what is play here, and can we think of play differently? Does it have to be structures? Can we look at your local geology, and can that kind of inform how we might want to move? You have a really rich climbing culture here. Can we use some of the behaviors that you're already doing and use that to inform how we might do play? We thought a lot about the richness of the environment and the local ecology. And we also talked a lot about play memory and how our own memories of play often actually don't even occur in a playground. So it is kind of funny that we're so focused on designing a playground when many of our richest play experiences may have happened climbing a tree, playing in a creek, getting lost with our friends. Most play memories don't have any grown-ups involved. And there's a lot of, so we're always kind of having this push-pull of like, let's encourage grown-ups to play, but should they be playing with kids? So we're always kind of having this push-pull. But the thing that we kept coming back to is that we want to create a space of wonder. We want people to have a sense of immersion in the landscape, feel a sense of discovery, like they turn a corner and they see something and kind of light up and are like, oh, I want to play there. I want to climb that. I want to perch on top of that. So we kept going with that checklist of thinking about those opportunities for physical play. And this is us sort of sketching and thinking and working really closely with the design team of like, what does play look like here? It's not a playground. Can we slide down the face of a mountain? Can we have really, really giant, tall swings that we can look at a vista over Lookout Mountain? Can we find these weird slabs that we can climb to the top of, skip over? And then can we have sensory play opportunities, but thinking of it in a very different way? One of my favorite play memories is this one on the upper left. It's called Fern Canyon. It was a place near my grandparents' house, and it was this sort of slot canyon. Water fell down the face of the walls, and ferns grew there, and there was a sense of you could hear the water and smell the water, and it was always changing, and it was just a really beautiful, immersive experience that had nothing to do with something that I picked out of a catalog. So can we create this sense of wonder in Montague Park and have this sense of smelling water, thinking about water, water is misting on us, we're sort of leaping through it. And so that's where we are with Montague. And I just spent a lot of time showing you cool pictures of playgrounds and talking about our design process, and I feel like we've been really rigorous in our how do people play, studying the play, designing for the play, and then coming back to myself of why do we build? We spent a lot of this presentation talking about the what, but coming back to the why. Remembering that play is a right, and that it's a right for everyone, not just for some of us, but for all of us. Being really thoughtful about how we're allowing people to play, how we're inviting people to play. Knowing that play happens because there's enough time, space, and permission. And it's also, do we value it as an experience and as an important part of human development? Changing our ideas that play is just for childhood, embracing play as part of our everyday experience. Play is a way of, when I talk about swinging a lot, I talk about swingers. We have to come up with a new term for that, by the way. So our bodies do a thing when we get stressed, and our shoulders get up there, and we start getting into what's called our flight or fight response, right? And we feel this sense of alarm, because our bodies were trained to run away from lions. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not like running away from lions in my everyday experience. We have this really rigorous fight or flight response that leads to stress response in our bodies. And we need play, and we need moments of calm in order to calm our bodies back down. We need to get ourselves out of this like constant cycle of worry and doom scrolling. And play helps you to do that. Going and swinging for 10 minutes, linear motion is very calming to our vestibular response. It's very calming to our parasympathetic nervous system, which is all about breathing. It's all about heart rate. It's all about digestion. It's all about calming your body down and saying a lion is not going to eat you. Nothing that's happening on social media equates to you being eaten by a lion, but your body is telling you that. So we have to integrate this practice of play into our everyday. Practice of laughter. Laughter also activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Anything you can do to sort of take a step back and tell your body that you're okay, and that's why we need to continue to play. And I'm going to leave you here. I have these pictures are on the back of my computer because I'm the same as you. I get the shoulders and the lion response all the time too. So I have these pictures on my computer as a reminder to myself about why we do the work that we do. And when this picture popped up, I was like, wow, that's Philadelphia. And then I thought, actually, wow, that's just America. And I was really proud that something that we designed told every single one of those people that they belonged in this space. This space was theirs, and they were invited in to play and be in community with all of these other people. They may not speak the same language, but they can all play together. So I want to leave you with this quote. I quoted a lot of other people. I'm going to quote myself. Humans are social animals. We have survived as a species only in community with each other. If we lose our community, we lose our humanity. And play is how we practice being human together. So I want to invite you, as you leave this room, to continue to practice curiosity and kindness and weirdness and joy. Find your purple dinosaur, find your swing, find something that lights you up. That is what play is for and what play is all about. And embrace your inner woohoo. Thank you.